I'm just here to let you all know that I stand here before you unapologetically Palestinian American. Sisters and brothers, I do not worry about the people of Gaza, because the people of Gaza are brave. They are courageous. They are resilient. I worry about you. I worry about Palestinian Americans and Muslim Americans. Where is your courage? Where is your bravery to stand up for your Palestinian sisters and brothers in Gaza and in the West Bank? Sisters and brothers, ceasefire is just the beginning. You will not walk away from us when there is a ceasefire, because that just means we go back to siege, we go back to occupation, we go back to brutalization, we go back to detention, we go back to deprivation. So don't stop at the ceasefire. Sisters and brothers, we have a lot of work to do, and some of you are not speaking loud enough. Rizq is from Allah. Rizq is from Allah. So what if you lose your job? So what if you lose an opportunity, sisters and brothers? That means that it was not meant for you in the first place. Sisters and brothers, they can take everything that I have. Everything that I have. Because I and you are not more honorable than our Palestinian family in Gaza and in the West Bank. And I will say this to our president and the people who are around him, and the Arab Americans and Palestinian Americans and Muslim Americans who work for this genocidal administration. Shame on you! Shame on you! You need to be outside here with us. Your president has disrespected you and our communities. So keep speaking out. Keep calling your members of Congress, because November 2024 will come and we will not forget our people. And lastly, I'm going to share a quote with you. And this is to all of our friends here. Our Jewish American friends, our black friends, some of whom are also Muslim, our South Asian, Palestinian, Syrian, Yemeni, all of you. It's a quote from Leela Watson, and she says this: if you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come here because you believe that your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. Free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free.
Okay, so I'm gonna need you guys to download this video, save it, share it, whatever, post it on your own feed just in case it gets removed, or they mess around with it like they did my last video. In case you don't know who this lovely man is, his name is Rishi Sunak. He is the Prime Minister of Great Britain. So I'm going to be showing you why there's no way in hell that this guy is ever going to ask for a ceasefire, because him and his family are also banking off of this war. I introduce to you Gashapa, Rishi's wife and mother of two. So I got this off of The Guardian. You can see here that she is richer than the Queen, owns just as many houses. And no, not because she's married to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister isn't that rich, okay? It's because her dad is a co-founder and owns shares in Infosys. Now, if you've been keeping up with what's going on, you probably already know, or you've heard, that Israel's going crazy on Gaza, not because of Hamas. It's actually because there's a bigger picture where all the white people come in and steal Gaza's gas. Now, just 6 days ago, the Zionists awarded gas exploration to a few companies. One of them is BP, which is British Petroleum. Stay with me, huh? And guess who signed a $1.5 billion deal with British Petroleum in May of this year? Infosys, Rishi's wife's company. Now you tell me, Why in the hell would this guy ever try to put an end to what's happening in Gaza and ask for a ceasefire if his baby mama is making so much money off of it? He's not going to do it.
𝕊𝖑 𝕻𝖊𝖑, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you.
I think it's fair to say the IDF is probably the most sacrosanct institution in all of Israel. Was it hard for you to cross a line, to break the taboo and speak out against what the IDF is doing?
Breaking the silence, I think, in any context isn't easy. Definitely in the Israeli society. It's not a natural thing in that sense to break that kind of silence. But I think that myself, like over 1,000 soldiers that are part of Breaking the Silence, former soldiers, it was much more difficult for me to keep my silence than to break it. And it's true that there are prices, but the truth of the matter is that I care too much for my country and my society to keep silent. And although there are pushbacks, we will persevere.
You broke the silence after you'd put your uniform away and left the IDF. Were you silent while you were a serving soldier?
Well, I didn't feel that I was silent. I remember occasions where I brought up what I was doing in the nights in Nablus and Jenin. When I was back home, I thought that I wasn't silent when I asked my soldiers what they thought about these operations. But it actually took me a while after my service, where I actually thought that I could put my military service behind me, to realize that I myself was also silent, that I myself was also not really frank when I was looking myself in the mirror.
So you were, to use that phrase, a good soldier. You followed orders and you did things which, and I'm now asking rather than stating, I'm guessing you did things which your moral conscience told you should not be doing, but you did them anyway and did not speak out against them.
That's true. I mean, I was a sergeant of a snipers team, and one of the routine missions that we carried out in Nablus, in Jenin, or in the surrounding areas of those two cities was a mission that we called a straw widow. Straw widow, when you take over a Palestinian home, every house in the West Bank actually has a number. Each and every house has a number. So we would open up the maps and look at the specific house that looked into the right place that we had to enter, a city center or a road. And after we would verify that the house has the best parameters, windows, and geographical area, we made sure the people in the house were innocent. So we would enter a house of an innocent Palestinian home in the middle of the night. The first missions that I carried out, the adrenaline was pumping. The second, the third, the fourth, when it started to calm down, I realized I was sitting in someone's living room, bedroom, children's room. That was when it started to break.
And you are dealing with people in fear.
Constant fear, but I have to say the fear is two-sided. I was also full of fear. But I would say that what motivated me eventually to break my silence was the piercing eyes of young Palestinians when I was barging into their house in the middle of the night. I could always justify it to myself, but those eyes, the anger, their fear, was what eventually helped me overcome that. A house of a physician in Nablus, for example, that I entered in the middle of the night, taking him, his wife, and his daughter, and pushing them in a room. If they wanted to use their bathroom or their kitchen or use their phone, they need permission from me. That specific house in Nablus stayed with me for a while because that physician himself was kind enough and generous enough to sit down and explain to me what it means to be a Palestinian. And that experience, when I was sitting there in a house in Nablus, made me realize what I'm actually doing as a soldier to millions and millions of people. Me, myself, not someone else, not a different unit of _NER. And I thought that I was a good moral soldier, but I was actually helping entrench the occupation in that sense.
I just want to be clear. Are you saying that the very act of going into the house of an innocent Palestinian family to you was and is totally unacceptable and corrosive and doing serious damage to the sort of moral values of Israel's army and indeed the nation state? Or are you saying that that's just the tip of an iceberg of behavior, much of which is much worse than that.
Yeah, I would say that when you look at the past 50 years, entering the 51st year, you look at the past 13 years that we've been collecting testimonies from soldiers, then you have different kinds of testimonies. So like the straw widow that I just talked about, I could talk about the flying checkpoint or entering houses for searching or checkpoints or making our presence felt, instilling fear into the Palestinian population, or the actual orders were instilling the sense that they're being chased, showing there's a new sheriff in town. There's a constant system.
It's the imposition of a basic power dynamic. The message being, we're in control, we're in charge of you and your lives, and we, in essence, can do what we want.
That's true. And I would say that in that, you have mundane routine operations of just having standing in a checkpoint or walking through a city center or a village, and you can have cases in this military occupation of violence, of destruction of property, of humiliations of Palestinians. We've collected dozens of these testimonies. That's not the problem of the occupation, it's a symptom. The problem is the idea of controlling millions of people by force indefinitely, and that's where the state of Israel is going. That's where the government is actually taking us, an indefinite military occupation.
But this, in the end, what you're outlining as your critique of what is happening in Israel and that the IDF as the agent of occupation is doing, is essentially political. I mean, you're saying, if I understand you correctly, that the very act and policy of occupation is corroding Israel's value and must end. But the truth is, time after time after time, the Israeli public votes in elections for parties which sustain and believe in that occupation.
I mean, that's true, but when you look at this democracy, it's basically a democracy that is controlling and ruling millions of people that don't have a right or a say in that democracy. So between the river and the sea, you have about 13 million people, where half of them do not go and elect anyone. So a big part of our mission, and that's where we spend, as Breaking the Silence, the vast majority of our energy and our time, is speaking to our fellow citizens all across Israel. We're actually the leading organization in the anti-occupation camp in the sheer numbers of people that we meet. But we also recognize that the houses that we entered were not houses of Israelis. And the occupation is not an internal Israeli issue. It's an issue that affects millions of Palestinians, and obviously the international community is involved as well.
Yeah, and I want to come back to the politics of this in some detail, but just to stick for now with testimony, because Breaking the Silence is all about gathering together the voices of soldiers, former soldiers, who are no longer prepared to be silent about what they've seen. I just want you to be very clear with me about some of the other behaviors, because you've talked about the day-to-day dull routines of occupation, but the other behaviors, like, for example, testimony about looting, stealing, Israeli soldiers stealing from inside Palestinian family homes, other testimony about deliberate acts of violence, striking youths, striking people in their own homes, beating them, also firing rubber bullets, transgressing the limits that are supposed to be imposed on the firing of those bullets and undoing the packaging so they do more damage. All of these aren't just about the routines of occupation. They suggest to me an army that has within it significant numbers of soldiers who want to do bad things.
I mean, you can choose to look at it like that. I think it's more complex.
But isn't it important to be honest that there are Israeli soldiers, if this testimony is true, many say it's not, but if it's true, there are people in the IDF doing very bad things.
I mean, yeah, I could say more than that. I was one of those soldiers doing very bad things. I saw it with my own eyes. I was part of it. I was violent. And I think in that sense, it's not about pinpointing a specific soldier or individual. And I don't think that there are Israeli generals waking up in the morning saying, how can I make the lives of Palestinians miserable? But there is a system that for now 51 years is constantly thinking, how can we maintain the status quo? Or I would say, let's take it a step further, how can we entrench it? The Israeli occupation, I think, has built in the mindset of the Israeli society a false equation that basically says it's a zero-sum game. It's either us or them. And in order for us to feel secure, they have to feel insecure. And when you have an entire army or a vast majority of the Israeli army, which is in charge of maintaining that military control. So the mission is control. The symptom is exactly what you talked about. Now, those symptoms will not disappear until we end the occupation.
Okay, share this video if you can, but I need a lot of people to get on board and do this with me. Okay, so someone shared this Tumblr post with me. This is her username, and she came up with this brilliant idea. So we've been calling our senators, we've been sending them emails, yet our voices are not being heard. Our phone calls are now being ignored, or our emails are not even being read. So this person came up with a brilliant idea to fax our senators paper that they cannot physically ignore. There's a website called 𝕊𝖑 where you can fax 5 papers to your senator every single day for free. Now I'm going to flip over the camera and show you a rundown of how it works. So this is the website. You have 3 options. You could send it to a congressperson, senator, or governor. If you press congressperson, it gives you the options for all the states, and you can click on this and send a free fax. And then if you also want to send it to your senators, you can click here. And again, same process, where if you scroll down, it has all of them listed by state. So my state is New Jersey, and I want to send it to 𝕘𝑙𝔔𝖗𝑎. So when I clicked his name, it automatically puts the information for me. And then all I have to do is put my information and then upload my file. I created a document where I listed what I want to say to him. And I didn't write a name or my name at the end. And I also put this on my link tree, so if anybody wants to just copy and paste this and send it to their senators, you can. And obviously, if you don't send it to a senator and a congressperson instead, you could switch that out. Again, you could send 5 a day, so please take advantage of this. Share this with your friends, family, anyone that you know, because the more people that get involved, the harder it is for them to ignore us.
Tonight, we welcome the Palestinian ambassador. The Palestinian people have a right to their homeland. Having endured generations of dispossession, occupation, oppression, apartheid, human rights violations that should shake humanity, tonight hell rains down on Gaza. Gaza, the graveyard of children. A child's life taken every 10 minutes. Israel claims to act in self-defense. Carpet bombing civilians, collective punishment, massacring children in their thousands is not defense. These are not justifiable responses to the horrific attack by Hamas on October the 7th. The world sees Israeli actions for what they are: barbaric, hateful, cowardly war crimes. This is a moment of reckoning for world leaders, for the European Union, a test of commitment to human rights, peace, democracy. We ask, where is the protection of international law for every child killed in Gaza, for every Gazan mother holding the cold body of their dead child? Israel cannot be allowed to commit atrocities with impunity. The government says that Israel's actions cannot be without consequences. I agree. That is why the Irish government must take the lead and refer Israel to the International Criminal Court and send the Israeli ambassador home. Commission gives carte blanche to Israel to massacre Palestinians, we say no, never. You do not speak for us. The world calls for immediate ceasefires. Some of the most powerful voices have come from the Jewish community, calling for peace, justice, secure lives for Israelis and Palestinians, and their call emanates from the unimaginable horror and collective trauma inflicted on their people. And in the name of humanity, they say, never again, not to another people. We stand with them. Israel must stop its slaughter in Gaza. Hamas must release all hostages. Ceasefires must be called. Only a peace process, dialogue, international law can deliver peace and Palestinian freedom. This is the only way that the children of Gaza and of Tel Aviv can have the future that they deserve. So tonight, from Ireland, loudly we say, ceasefire now.
Filistin'de 500'den fazla aile tamamen yok oldu. Anneyiz, babayız, eşiz, evladız. Bombalar altında can...
Zweitens,
die Versorgung der Krankenhäuser mit Treibstoff und lebenswichtigen Medikamenten.
ناشبناك لك ناشبناك شوف الباص والله زحمة يا جماعة.
Home in Gaza, we lost 5,000 people. This is just an approximation. Israel killed 5,000 Palestinians.